What's up, everyone? Welcome to the video. We're here breaking down the FireKeepers Casino 400 at Michigan International Speedway. This will take place on Sunday, August 6th around 2:30 p.m. Eastern. And hoping for a good race this weekend. Not totally sure what to expect, but we have seen in this next-gen car where these larger intermediate tracks do produce some pretty good racing. So I am hoping that trend can continue once again this weekend. And as always, if this is your first time here, what's up? My name is Pennell. I break down NASCAR DFS each and every single week on this channel. Just find me live on Sunday mornings, breaking down the entire slate, answering any question you guys may end up having. And with this race starting a bit earlier this weekend, probably playing around noon or 1 o'clock Eastern for the live stream, so hopefully I'll see you all there. And if you guys do end up enjoying today's free content, the only thing I ask in return, if you can leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so, and even if you don't, consider leaving a like anyway. And feel free to leave a comment down below, being nice, being mean, call me ugly, I don't really care, but I love to hear from you. And really quick, let me sell it a bit. I'm sorry, gotta do it, but not really that sorry. I do got to mention the sponsor of the show, Prize Picks and Underdog, because they do make these videos possible. And as of right now, if you're a new user on either site, promo code CPEN will get you a deposit match bonus up to $100. And both sites are awesome. I'm not just saying that. I do enjoy playing on both sites. They have all the props you'd ever need for any sport. But over on Underdog, this is best ball season. The NFL is coming up very soon. We just had the Hall of Fame game. So get your best ball drafts in. They have some major prizes. I think like up to $3 million to first for their Best Ball Mania 4 right now, and tons of other things. So again, check it out using the link down below in the description or the pinned comment, and use promo code CPEN and tell them I sent you. All right, so moving on to the strategy portion of this video, nothing too crazy here. We're just kind of building as a 1.5 mile track, although there's less laps than normal here because it's 2 miles in length compared to 1.5. So we're looking at 200 laps this weekend, take 70% of that. That's the amount of dominator points that we have available to us, give or take with the fast laps, with the caution laps, and things like that. So we're basically looking at 1 to 2 DOMs per build. I don't really see a scenario where we're going to try to force in 3 DOMs. The thing is, though, you can kind of play them as hybrid DOMs, whether they be finishing position plays or whatever. So really, you're looking at 1 to 2, but it can be a mixture just because there's not that many laps. So you're basically focusing on finishing position and place differential for the most part, then obviously try to get a main dominator in your lineup. And if we're looking at comparable tracks this weekend, it's really just all the intermediates. So Michigan, 2 mile track, low tire wear, a big oval. So you're pretty much looking at Kansas, Las Vegas, also Texas and Charlotte can be thrown in. And even though Auto Club's a high tire wear track, it's also 2 miles in length where you get a lot of speed. Pocono as well, 2.5 mile track, shorter and flat. A little bit different, 3 turns, but still a track that I think will have at least some similarity to it. And those are a lot of the tracks that NASCAR is using for their tire code this weekend, give or take a couple. I forget off the top of my head. So really just looking at drivers that have been fast at these tracks this season, in addition to what they showed us on practice and qualifying on Saturday afternoon, will definitely be the best way to go about it. And finally, moving on to the driver by driver breakdown, I do have to mention one thing first, and that is, of course, Patreon is running their free week trial. So if you want to come in, check out all the extra content, plus the Discord, optimizer, ownership projections, simulation scores, all that fun stuff. Links down below in the description or the pinned comment for that, and no strings attached, completely free. And if you like it, you can stay. If not, tell me to kick rocks. I don't care either way. All right, so let's get into it here. We'll start up top with the man, Kyle Larson, $10,800 on DraftKings, $14K over on FanDuel. And it's going to be hard to avoid him here, starting all the way back in 17th. Definitely going to be a pretty popular play with the starting position, just due to the fact that not a short track, they'll have a ton of laps, so we can make up for the dominator points he doesn't get early on with the place differential he does offer us here starting in 17th. So I do imagine he will be the popular cash game play. And it's not like it's going to be that hard to afford him either. Now, this is my first run through the slate. Practice and qualifying just ended, and these are not the most up-to-date odds. But I can tell you right now, Kyle Larson will definitely be a top 5 contender. He should be top 5 in odds, I'd imagine. Maybe not just because of the poor qualifying effort, but I don't think it's going to matter too much here at Michigan. And if we're looking at the numbers, it wasn't like the absolute best car in practice or anything, but looking at the overall lap by lap data, I mean, he's got a pretty strong car. He was 8th in the 1 lap, 14th in the 5, but not overly concerned about that. Now, if we're looking at these similar tracks here, the tracks we've been at for the next-gen car and the similar track history, which I think makes more sense to look at than just the Michigan history, then obviously this season as well. But as you can see, Kyle Larson averaging the most DraftKings points, has 2 wins, the most dominator points, just some of the overall best numbers. So starting in 17th, for a guy that has the potential to win just about everywhere we go, will be definitely hard to avoid. Now, I'm not in projections or anything, so I don't know exactly how he's going to stack up, but I imagine he will project pretty well. Denny Hamlin here, $10,700, 13.5 over on FanDuel. I imagine he will probably project pretty similar to Kyle Larson, but I get 4 extra spots with him, and I wasn't super impressed with Denny over the practice and qualifying sessions. It seems like he was just a little bit off. I know he was reporting like a weird smell at the very beginning of practice, and then qualifying didn't go amazing either. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was better than Kyle Larson's, but I feel like they are very similar plays, so why not just give me the 4 extra spots with Larson. Now in tournaments, he probably won't be as popular, so I don't mind the pivot there, but if I am playing cash games, I am probably going to Denny there. But both of these guys have really just been the 2 of the better drivers, potentially 2 of the best drivers, intermediates, and the next gen cars, so really hard to avoid either, and I would definitely get a healthy dose of both, but I do have a preference on Larson as of right now. And Martin Truex Jr., $10,500. He is starting in 5th, definitely a threat to dominate here, starting inside the top 5, and he is certainly a pivot away from one of the 2 drivers up top, but he's also a good pairing option with one of the 2 drivers starting up top, because he could be an early potential dominator, and you mix him in with the guy that's starting mid-pack that can offer some PD upside and dominate the second portion of this race. I definitely don't hate going about that. Also turn the fastest lap in practice, with the being first in the 1 lap, 4th in the 5, 6th in the 10, and looking at the overall lap by lap data, looked pretty darn good, and he's very good at Michigan, and he has been good just about everywhere this year, so I think Truex is a fine tournament play. Not quite sure if I get there in cash games. I do think William Byron offers similar upside, and it was a little bit faster in practice, and he's a little bit cheaper, so I'm thinking Truex is really only going to be a tournament option as of right now, but definitely not someone to avoid. Then we have Kevin Harvick here, $10,300. He's starting back in 22nd. I was surprised at the pricing this week, and I realized he's won like 5 out of the last 8 races or something here at Michigan. It's absolutely insane. And Ford has actually won, I feel like, the past 8 races. If I remember correctly, it's just an insane run for Ford here in Michigan. Wouldn't be too surprised if that comes to an end this weekend. I'm not saying Ford sucks or anything, but it doesn't look like they have the absolute best cars unless Ryan Blaney can pull out a W, because he looked pretty strong. And obviously, Chris Buescher and Brad Kay showed a little bit of speed, but Stewart-Haas was kind of down in the dumps. And if you're looking at Harvick's numbers in practice, 25th in the 1 lap, 26th in the 5, 18th in the 10. I can't really see him getting up front, and if I can just spend a couple $100 more for a guy like Truex, so I feel pretty good about at least getting some dominator points, get Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, even right below him, Kyle Busch, William Byron. I feel like these guys are all way more likely to dominate or finish higher than Harvick here, so at that price point, very tough to get to. If he was in the lower 9K range, I consider it more, but at 10.3, I mean, I don't really want to sacrifice a Truex or a Hamlin or a Larson just to get the Kevin Harvick, because he offers a little bit more place differential upside based off the speed we saw in practice. So it will probably be a pass for me. Kyle Busch, $10,100. He's starting in 8th. I think he's a decent tournament play here. A pretty strong car in practice, 10th in the 1 lap, 5th in the 5, 2nd in the 10, then 1st in the 15 and 20, but only like 2 drivers ran those, so it doesn't really look like it's something to look at. But starting in 8th here, I think William Byron will definitely have a lot of ownership, especially how fast he was and how good his pit crew is and how good he's been so far this year. So I think Busch is a decent pivot off of William Byron. I do prefer Kyle Busch over Kevin Harvick as of right now. So if Harvick's going to have more ownership than Kyle Busch, I would much rather get to Kyle Busch. But either way, I don't think he's a bad GBP play. And then William Byron, $10,000. He's the guy I do have a bet on to win this week. Got him earlier. I think it was on a Tuesday, like 11 or 10 to 1 on BetMGM. So I felt pretty good about that number. He got down to 750 on DK. Not sure if it'll get better or not after what we saw in qualifying and practice. Obviously, he was really good in practice, so maybe it goes down a little bit, but I do feel good about that bet. Just love what I saw from him at similar tracks this year with how good that pit crew is. It's just a nice added bonus every single week when you can get a couple extra spots or maintain position. Just at some point, you typically get up front as long as you're helping your team out speed-wise on the track. And if you're looking at what he's done this year at intermediate tracks, averaging the most DraftKings points per race, the best average running position. This includes Michigan last year as well. 3 top 5s in the most dominant points, so really hard not to like Willie B this weekend. Dropping down to the 9K range, we have our pole sitter Christopher Bell at $9,800. Has a really fast car. I believe he was only behind William Byron on my overall lap by lap data. The only problem is it's not like this is a race where we have 400, 500 laps where Christopher Bell can lead stage 1 and he's basically optimal as long as he doesn't completely wreck out of the race. Because let's say he leads like 25, 30 laps. Not bad, but at some point a guy like Truex could get there. Ross Chastain's definitely a threat on the front row as well. And you have some other fast cars. So I don't think he's a lock to just run away with the race. And let's say he only leads like 20 laps and finishes 9th. Not going to get the job done on this slate. So it's not like he's a slam dunk for cash game starting on the front row here. I do have some concerns there. He is playable, but I feel like I'm only going to get there in tournaments. Fast car, it's just, with Christopher Bell, there's always a lot of risk because he can be very up or down. But I do like him. Just not sure if I like him enough for cash games yet. Then we have Ryan Blaney here at $9,700. He's starting in 9th. I know we kind of shy away from the Fords of these track types, but I do like Blaney here. He always tends to be the one that shows some more speed than the others. And he showed that in practice. 6th in the 1 lap, 6th in the 5, 7th in the 10. Overall looked very good. He did win at Michigan. I believe it was a couple years ago where he passed Kyle Larson at the end. And this has been a pretty good track for him and Ford in general. obviously. So I think Blaney's playable in tournaments starting in 9th. Chase Elliott, $9,500. Really cheap on FanDuel. I can see him being very popular over there at only 9K flat. But he's starting in 10th. Kind of qualified right around where his practice numbers were, so I'm not sure if he's going to have a ton of upside. But Elliott's going to have to find a way here to get some points and try to get into the win column as well, just to secure things up. And this has not been a bad track for him whatsoever. So I don't hate Chase Elliott. I don't think he's going to win the race or dominate, but if he can finish anywhere from like 4th to 6th, that's not a terrible day, especially over in FanDuel at that price point. Joey Logano, $9,300. He's really cheap on FanDuel as well. He's starting in 6th. Wasn't that strong in practice. I always feel like he qualifies better than where he's going to finish the race. I mean, sometimes it's different where he qualifies kind of poorly, like last week at Richmond, but we liked him last week at Richmond. This week, starting in 6th, kind of tough to get there. I don't really think he's going to dominate. I'd much rather play his teammate Ryan Blaney for a couple $100 more. Showed a lot more speed. I think he's more likely to dominate, so probably really not going to have too much Joey Logano, I imagine. And I'd much rather play Tyler Reddick here. He was faster in practice. I love his paint scheme this week. He's using like a Rocket League thing. It's like blue, red, white. It looks pretty good. But $9,200, 10K on FanDuel, starting at 15th. You get the place differential upside. I feel like he's a very similar play to Larson and Denny Hamlin, but you're getting him for almost $2,000 cheaper. And he was top 10 in practice. And I'm looking at the green flag speed numbers at similar tracks this year, or his performance at similar tracks, the next-gen car grades out pretty well for me. So I do like Tyler Reddick here. Ross Chastain, he's in the front row. He is dirt cheap on FanDuel. Definitely a really good play over there, $8,000. Just kind of hoping he hangs around the top 5 all day. That'll get the job done at that price point. On DraftKings, you're kind of playing him as a pivot off of Christopher Bell. I wouldn't play both together just because there's not that many laps in this race where I don't really love the front row together. Like, it can work out, but I don't think it's the most likely scenario because a lot of these guys have, like Bubba Wallace, he's starting at 11th and he could easily finish 4th in this race. And Tyler Reddick, starting in 15th, he could finish like 6th. And if Ross doesn't dominate, they're going to outscore Ross even if he finishes like 4th. So something to keep in mind there. But he is a nice tournament play. Did lead some laps here, I believe, last season. Something happened, though, where he finished into the 20s. But Trackhouse has really been lacking speed recently, but it seems like they got it back this week. So I don't mind Ross in tournaments because of the depressed price point. Suppressed price point, I mean, not depressed. Going down to the 8K range, you have Bubba Wallace, $8,800. He's starting at 11th. Probably one of the better tournament plays on the entire slate. I know he's starting kind of high, but that's really where we want Bubba at these kind of tracks because it keeps his ownership down. But he's always a top 5 contender. I believe he has 3 top 5s so far this season in the intermediate tracks. And we're looking at his 6-race sample size, including Michigan last year and the intermediates this season. We have 4 top 5s for Bubba. That's 4 to 6 races. He's in the top 5. And that's actually the most of all drivers. Just overall some very solid numbers. So if you're going to play Bubba, this is one of the best weeks to do it. And I do like him quite a bit here, $8,800. Fresh off a performance last week where he did very well at short track and even got up front and dominated. Brett Keselowski, $8,600. Really cheap on FanDuel. Think he's a better play over there. He's starting in 12th. I just kind of feel like this is a spot where he's going to finish pretty close to where he starts. But RFK did bring some speed this weekend, so I don't hate getting the Brad. And I was looking at the overall lap by lap data and actually graded out pretty well. So I'm fine with both of these RFK guys in tournaments. More so Keselowski, though. Buescher's kind of topped out starting in 4th. I really don't see a scenario where he improves upon that. I know he did great last week. Liked him. Did not expect him to win or anything, but definitely outdid his expectations for sure. But starting in 4th here, I just don't really see how he's going to do better than that. So I'm going to be passing on Buescher, but Keselowski, I think he's a fine play in tournaments. But on FanDuel, I should mention Buescher is dirt cheap, so he might filter in some lineups over there, but probably not on DraftKings. Ty Gibbs is in a very similar situation. All week I was thinking I want to play Ty Gibbs in tournaments. Ends up qualifying 3rd, so makes it really tough to do that. He's basically going to have to finish top 5 and hope some of these other guys have issues. Like he's going to have to hope Bowman just has a poor race, Keselowski, Bubba Wallace. So probably end up being pretty low on Ty Gibbs, unfortunately. But I do think he can run pretty well. It's just the starting position makes it very tough, and he can be very up or down. And speaking of Alex Bowman, he's starting in 20th. Do like him quite a bit. Was pretty strong in practice. Looks like he's got a top 10 car. 7th in the 1 lap, 7th in the 5, 5th in the 10, 2nd in the 15. And if we're looking at his numbers at the intermediates, we're talking 45 DraftKings points per race, average finish inside the top 12, 3 top 10s with the top 5. So yeah, Bowman probably end up being pretty chalky on this slate. And that's why it makes it so tough to play guys like Buescher and Ty Gibbs, because you have Bowman, or even if he just has like an average race, we're talking 10 extra place differential points, and these guys will more than likely move back. Dropping down to the 7K range, we have Daniel Suarez, $7,700. He's starting in 14th. And like I said, the Trackhouse cars have just kind of disappeared speed-wise recently. And while Ross was pretty fast, Daniel Suarez wasn't that amazing in practice. 19th in the 1, 21st in the 5. I guess this wouldn't be a bad track to play the Trackhouse guys. And I do have some interest in Ross, which means I have to have a little bit of interest in Suarez, but I'd reserve him for tournaments only. Eric Almirola, probably just going to pass here. Don't really see the Stewart-Haas cars being too much of a factor in this race. He's starting in 18th, practice 24th, 23rd, 15th. Not really loving the upside there. Eric Jones, I do like starting in 25th to get some place differential upside, really cheap on FanDuel, 18th and 15th in practice. And I always tend to like playing Eric Jones. These higher speed tracks, it's where he just tends to do a little bit better. So I don't mind him starting in 25th. Austin Dillon in 16th, $7,200. Pretty much practiced a little bit worse than where he qualified. I don't really see him improving too much upon this. Starting in 16th, if we're looking at his numbers so far this season, talking an average finish of 17th at the intermediates, which is one spot lower, 20.4 average running position. Does have 3 top 10s and 4 top 15s, but a little bit lucky there because it's definitely not how he's running it. I mean, it's not like he's been running great this year with an average running position of 20th. So the finishes have been getting a little bit lucky. I guess he's just good at not trashing his car and surviving carnage at the end of the races, but I'm not loving AD here. Ricky Stenhouse, $7,000. He's starting in 27th. I feel like this is one of those tracks, similar to Eric Jones, where we like him at the higher speed tracks. And practice 23rd and 20th, starting all the way back in 27th. I prefer Eric Jones, but I don't hate getting to a little bit of Stenhouse. AJ Allmendinger, $6,800. Really cheap on FanDuel, $4,800. He's starting back in 24th. Actually practiced pretty well. 12th in the 1 lap, 9th in the 5, and 11th in the 10. Now, this isn't exactly my favorite track type for him, but he does have an average finish inside the top 20 so far. So I think starting in 24th is not the worst play. But let's be honest, I don't really think we can break this down too much. He's pretty much in the same boat as guys like Stenhouse and Eric Jones. I'd split my exposure up, but I would have a lean on Eric Jones as of right now. Ryan Preece, probably passing, just has been super slow. Average finish 25.4. Great last week, but I mean, Richmond has nothing to do with Michigan here, so we can't really draw any comparables. So I'm probably just going to be passing on Preece, even though he does offer quite a bit of PD upside. Probably passing on Briscoe here. That man is like the slowest guy on the track every time we go to an intermediate. Michael McDowell starting a little bit higher for me in 23rd. I know he's been having a great season this year, but I'm talking an average finish of 24th and 21.3 average running position at these track types this season, so not really loving Michael McDowell. Justin Haley hasn't been terrible. He's starting in 26, average finish of 18.7, running position around 20th, and also I believe had 4 top 20s as well. Now, if we're looking at practice for Justin Haley, sorry, the page is jumping around really quick on me. He was the best of these guys we just talked about, 21st and 18th, so I guess if you had to play one of these 6K guys, Allmendinger and Haley are the ones I'd get to, the 2 colleague cars. Dropping down to the 5K range, it's going to get ugly really quick here. Just a bunch of slow cars. There's a reason they're this cheap and starting this far back. They're just probably not going to move much. So you have Cindric starting in 21st. Guys pretty much just an auto fade everywhere almost. Harrison Burton, a guy that I just never play. Josh Berry's filling in for Noah Gragson because he made an oopsies on social media. So we'll see what happens there. He's suspended indefinitely now, so we'll see if he gets his ride back or not. It's not like he was performing well, so they're hurting to getting him back. They're probably happy he did so they can get him out of the car. But Berry, 32nd, 30th, and 20th. I know he's had some good runs in Cup, but that was in a Hendrick car. Now he's in a Legacy car, which is borderline the worst cars on the track, so really hard to get excited there. If I had to play any 5K driver, it's probably Corey LaJoie. I know he hit the wall and spun in practice, but he's starting in 31st, 17th and 16th in the 1 and 5 lap. At least there was a little bit of speed there before he spun, so starting in 31st is not the worst play in the world. Gillen's in the back, but he's slow. Same with Hill, same with Custer, same with Dillon, Gillian Blick. All these guys suck, so don't really think I want to go below Corey LaJoie this week. But with that being said, guys, that's all I got for the video. So I hope you did enjoy, and if you did, make sure you leave a like down below. And even if you didn't, leave a like anyway. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so, and feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. I'll see you all in the live stream tomorrow, probably around noon Eastern, maybe a little bit later. But I wish you all the best of luck. Don't forget to check out the Patreon and the promos with Prize Picks and Underdog if you haven't yet done so. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you all next time.